Welcome everybody. I'm trying again. I'm really working with Facebook here, trying to get these live feeds to work. I'm not sure whether the first one went through, so I'm starting all over again just for you. I'm hoping you can find this on my feed, but I'm here in the kitchen. Welcome. It is Tuesday and you are cooking with Evey. And today, which is a beautiful May day, May also being the month for a special Mediterranean diet day. So May is Mediterranean Diet Month. And in honor of that, I'm going to be making a Mediterranean dish, Mediterranean-inspired dish. It's a Mediterranean ragu with cod. And if you're not familiar with what a ragu is actually a way of cooking. It is taking spices and meats and cooking it, stewing it with vegetables. And today, instead of doing it with beef, which sometimes it is done, I'm going to be making it with cod, because fish is a staple of the Mediterranean diet. We'll also be working with some wonderful anti-inflammatory ingredients, namely leeks. Delicious. Leeks are a mild, sweet, have a mild sweet onion flavor, but really unique in their flavor, all of their own. We're going to be adding in garlic, and then we have zucchini and bell pepper. We'll be layering all of this over a homemade cauliflower. So if you've been curious about how to make cauliflower, it's very easy. We'll be doing that at the end of the cooking program. All right, so let's get started. All right, in advance, I prepped some of the leek. And if we have time later on, I'm going to show you how I cut up this leek. But for now, let me just show you, we can hear that sizzling, how the leeks look. I chopped them up, sliced them finely, here you go, and I just cooked them for about 4 minutes on a medium heat until they started to soften. Once you're at this stage, we can add in our other ingredients to make that nice, rich, stew-like vegetable base. So I added in my leeks. I am now going to add in my garlic. I want 3 cloves of garlic chopped up. And I also did a little prepping for my garlic. So I chopped up my 3 garlic cloves so I could add them in right away. I'm glad I did this because given that the video didn't start on time because of the glitch, this will speed things up and keep things moving along. So I added in the garlic. I'm probably down on about a medium heat right now. And I'm going to add in my peppers. So I add in 1 bell pepper. In this case, it is an orange bell pepper. You could add in a red bell pepper or a yellow bell pepper if you wish. I have a yellow one right here for you to see. But I had the red or the orange, and I thought I would add that in just for some fun color. In addition to the bell pepper, we're going to add in some of zucchini. So this is 1 zucchini. It was about this size, pretty decent sized zucchini. I cut it up into, probably about 1/2 to 1 inch wedges. So I sliced it and then quartered it. And I'm going to add that in to my dish right away. The reason I prepped all of these, and this is a good habit to get into, is to pre-chop everything and have it ready so that as you're going, you don't have to stop and chop. This keeps everything cooking at a nice pace. I'm going to up the temperature underneath my veggies as I'm talking here so that they continue to cook. You can already see such beautiful colors that are there. Let me just show that to you. Isn't that wonderful? And remember, you know I say the more color in your vegetables, the better it is for you because of the more antioxidants and phytonutrients that are in that dish. So I always look to get a good variety of color in there. And we are getting just that. So I've now added in my leeks, my garlic, my bell pepper. I had some olive oil there. Olive oil is another staple of the Mediterranean diet. It's a very healthy monounsaturated fat that you can actually cook with. And so I cook a lot with olive oil. So, very good. Let's see. So now let's add in some of those spices that I told you about. And you know, spices add flavor to a dish, but they also add healthy nutrients to the dish as well. And that goes for the spices that we are adding today. I'm going to be adding basil. So I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of my basil. And I'm not going to measure it out. I'm just going to put it into my palm here and give it a sprinkling. And I'm going to add in about half as much of my oregano and thyme. Very classic Mediterranean ingredients, right? I'm sure you're all familiar with those. So that was about a half teaspoon of my oregano, and I'm going to add in about a half teaspoon of my thyme. All right. Adding my seasoning in this way keeps the herbs dry because I'm not spooning them over a steaming dish, right? Let me mix these in. This is good. I'm getting to see this steaming now. So I know that things are starting to cook. All right. So I added in my thyme, my oregano, and basil. I'm now going to add in a little bit of paprika and some salt and pepper. So I'm going to measure out my paprika with a spoon. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of paprika into the bottom of my paprika jar here. All right. That's going to add flavor, but also a nice red color to the dish. And I'm going to add in again about a half teaspoon of salt. Add a little bit less. I always like to add less and then add more at the end if I need it. I try to be just conservative with the amount of salt that I tend to add. So I've added that in. Now I want to add in about a quarter teaspoon of ground pepper. Ground black pepper here. Give a little spice to it. So I hope everyone's enjoying the weather. I hope everyone's having a beautiful summer day like we are here in the Chicagoland area. Kind of reminiscent of the Mediterranean, no? Kind of inspiring this Mediterranean food and inspiring me to cook maybe this whole month more of the Mediterranean diet style. I'm just going to give this a mix, let it continue cooking. All right, and I'm just going to let that continue to cook. And then I'll tell you about the additional ingredients that we have. Okay, so we added in all of these wonderful anti-inflammatory ingredients that are reminiscent of Mediterranean dishes. As I said, the zucchini and the bell pepper are in there, garlic, which adds a wonderful, wonderful flavor. And remember about our anti-inflammatory spices that are in there as well. Now, little twist to this dish. I'm going to add in some chickpeas, some garbanzo beans. That'll add in some fiber, which is very good for us, very anti-inflammatory, helps keep us healthy. Mediterranean diet is very rich in fiber-filled foods, so this is a good way to get it in, is to add in some legumes. So I'm just going to drain my pan. Now, you can make your own beans. Many times I will make up a batch of garbanzo beans and have them in the refrigerator so that I can add them to a dish last minute if I decide to add it in. So I have my garbanzos here. I'm going to add those in a minute, because first I want to add in my tomatoes. I have here a can of organic diced tomatoes that I would like to add in. Again, tomatoes is a very good basis for many of the Mediterranean foods. You could, by all means, in the middle of the summer, when tomatoes are ripe and abundant, add in chopped fresh vegetables, fresh tomatoes. I would think you're probably looking at about maybe 4 plum tomatoes there. Going to add in about a half a cup of water to the dish and let that heat up. And then I'm going to add in my garbanzos. All right, so now we have pretty much the base of our ragu, right? The sauce that is going into this dish. I'm going to give it a stir. Boy, it's really filling up this pan here. I wish I had a bigger pan, but I don't, so I'll just be very careful. All right, I want to start to get this heating up. Go. Let me show it to you real quickly. There we go. Look at what we have here. Isn't that beautiful? All those colors. I think what I'll do is I'll put it back onto my stove here and let it come up to temperature. The stove works a lot quicker than my hot plate here does. So I'm going to bring that up to temperature. I'm going to put a lid on it. And let that come back to a simmer. All right, so, before I forget, almost forgot, I want to add in a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. If you have apple cider vinegar, that would work. A white balsamic would be very nice in this as well. So I'm going to add in a tablespoon of that to my sauce. It's already coming up to a simmer. And I just want the veggies to start softening. All right? While we're waiting for that, I'm going to now grab my cod fillets. Now, I had pre-washed these, rinsed them when I got home from the grocery store, and placed them into the refrigerator. And you can see I have 3, it's about a pound, 3 fillets that are here. It would have been better if I had 4 fillets, but sometimes you just work with what you have, right? So I have 3 fillets here that I'm just going to nestle on top of my the vegetables that are cooking and let it steam. And I'll probably leave it in for about 10 minutes. Let's see how we're doing with those and see whether we can put them on top right now. Oh yeah. So I don't know if you can see from where you are, but I do have it simmering very nicely here. And I'm just going to then, now I had rinsed them and I patted them dry with paper towel earlier. And I'm just going to nestle these into my veggies here. So when looking for your fish, look for 3 pieces or 4 pieces ideally, or cut them into pieces that are almost the same size so that they will cook equally and you won't overcook them. So I am now going to leave this in covered for 10 minutes. I'm going to give it a little sprinkle of some scallions for a little additional flavor. I'm going to put that lid on and I'm going to turn it down to a medium-low temperature and just let that steam. So we have about 10 minutes until those are done. Now those are actually fairly thick steaks, cod steaks, so they might actually take a little bit longer, but we can check and see and decide. That's the beauty of cooking, right? You can decide whether you need to cook it a little bit longer. All right, while that is going on, I wanted to show you how to make cauliflower rice. Now, I recommend cauliflower rice instead of rice to many of my clients. And again, cauliflower is a very nutritious, nutrient-dense vegetable, very high in vitamin C and fiber, which is all good for us, good for our immune health, keeping that inflammation down. I bought this morning probably about a medium to medium small head of cauliflower, probably weighed about 2 pounds. And I cut them into small florets. I find that if I cut these into small florets at the beginning, it makes it easier to pulse them in my food processor. So what I will do, let's see if I can, I'm just going to bring it over here. And show you how I do this, because it is so easy. And you can buy cauliflower that's already been pulsed into rice grain size. You can buy that in the produce department sometimes. Otherwise, you can buy it in the frozen section where it's in a package, and then you just have to heat it up. It's so easy to make, and price-wise, much more reasonable if you make it yourself. So as I said, I rinsed it, I cut off the florets, and I'm just going to add it into my big container on my food processor with my larger blade, chopping blade. And then I'm just going to pulse it for about 4 seconds. That's it. You have cauli rice. Now, we do need to cook it, but I'll show you how to do that too. But let me just show you just how wonderful this looks at this point. Look at this. Just like rice. Now, the trick is not to get it wet. So when I did chop the florets up, I did drain it in a colander just to get rid of any excess water that might be in there. Because you don't want it to steam, you want it to actually cook but not get mushy. If it gets mushy, then you can blend it a little bit more after it's cooked and you'll get mashed cauliflower, which is like mashed potatoes with less carbs. So we now have, and I did half a batch, so that was half a head of cauliflower that I just did. This is the other half. So let me just turn down my stew a little bit. All right, so now I have enough to add into my skillet. Let me reconnect my hot plate here. and bring over another skillet. Now, as I said, the trick here is you do not want to add liquids to this. We're actually just going to saute the cauliflower until it softens. So again, in the spirit of Mediterranean cooking, I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil and heat that up in my skillet here, probably about a tablespoon of olive oil. And I just want that olive oil to heat up. So ideally, if you have, this is a cast iron skillet, you heat up the skillet, then you add the oil, you heat up the oil. So we'll see how long it takes to heat up the skillet on this heating plate. But hopefully won't take too long. While we are waiting, I'm just going to set this aside. While we are waiting, I'm going to chop a bit of parsley. All right, and as you know, I like to store my parsley in water in the refrigerator. I'll put a piece of plastic, you know, the plastic that it comes in from the grocery store over it to protect it. This has been in my refrigerator for 2 weeks. It lasts a long time when you just do a little bit of prepping. And that's wonderful. So I just want to chop a little bit of parsley because I'm going to add in the parsley into my cauliflower rice. Kind of like a parsley rice. I don't know, growing up we had that. It always seems like a treat just because it had some color and texture to it. Plus, it adds flavor and added nutrients, right? We're trying to add in flavor and nutrients whenever possible. So I have just a little fistful of parsley here, and I have about 1 scallion. I put in about 1 chopped scallion into my cod, but I have another scallion here that I'm going to saute in with my cauli rice. And I'm going to put the scallions in first. Get that nice sizzle so I know it's cooking. And then I'm just going to add in my rice. Let's see how much I have here. I might just add in this 1 bowl. That's about a good amount. And I can save the uncooked cauli rice for later on. It will keep longer if I do that. I'll just put it in an airtight container. I'd like to put it back into a glass bowl like this that has a lid. And put it into the refrigerator and store it there. I'm going to just stir this up now. And it doesn't take long, you know, just a few minutes to soften that cauliflower into a rice consistency. I'm going to add in my parsley so that has a chance to cook down a little bit. I'll add a little bit of salt and pepper as well. Well, I'm so glad that this recording worked this time. We actually got to see the full dish. I've been having some glitches here. If anybody knows what's going on with Facebook and Facebook Live, please let me know. Am I doing something wrong? I don't know. All right, so we have this cooking now. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. And let me just add a little bit of salt and pepper to it. This is very little pepper. This mill doesn't put out very much pepper, so I would think that's probably was about 1/16 of a teaspoon there. Not very large at all. All right, this is cooking up nicely. Now, as promised, I wanted to just go over very quickly how to chop up your leek. because I know if you're not familiar with it and you're not comfortable with it, you may not try it. But leeks are wonderful, and as I said, they add a very unique flavor to a dish. So just very quickly, while my rice is cooking, I'm going to put it down on a lower temperature so that it doesn't burn on me. I'm still going to wait for that cod to cook. It's just coming up on 10 minutes, but those were larger pieces, so I'm going to just let it go a little bit longer. Let me just check it for a second. Yes, I want to turn this up. It is simmering nicely, though. So this is a fairly large leek. What I want to do is, if you look, leeks grow in very sandy soil. So they tend to have a lot of dirt in them when you get them from the store, or especially from your farmer's market. The greener leaves are very tough. So we don't want to cook with those. They do have a lot of wonderful flavor, so I will save this for my vegetable broth that I will be making later on. Maybe take off these heavier leaves on the outside, but just to show you, look here. You can really see the dirt that's in there. So when we are prepping our leeks, we want to be very aware that there could be dirt still hiding inside. And how I prepped the leeks for today is I cut lengthwise down so that I had half moons as I went. I'm just going to cut this in half for now so that you can see it's a beautiful light green color in here. And I'm going to throw out any of those tougher leaves, as I said, but this one is very good. I can see that there's probably a little bit of dirt that's in here still, but what I'm going to do is cut it down lengthwise, all right, and I'm going to turn it cut side down on my board. These are still a little tough on the outside. I'm going to get rid of those. And then I'm just going to slice them, probably in about 1/4 inch slices. Till I get to the end. All right. So you can see these beautiful cuts of leek. Now, they might still have some of this dirt in it, which we really don't want in our dish. Speaking of dish, let me just give this a stir. It's browning a little bit on the bottom here. My cauliflower rice is pretty much done. So I'm going to turn this off and put it on the, literally on the back burner here. And just finish up with this so you can see how to clean up your leeks before using them. So what I want to do is I want to add in some fresh water. And I'm just going to add them in to this cold water. I can feel the dirt as I'm picking up these slices here. But so now I have them in some water. What I can do, I just want to rinse them, swish them around a bit, and then I'm just going to reuse my cauliflower bowl here. Just want to lift them out. Hopefully all that dirt is now settling to the bottom. And I have my nice clean leeks here. Now, when you're sauteing, again, you want to have them pretty dry. You could put them in a colander, much like we used for the beans before, and let them drip. I've actually been known to put them in a salad spinner and spin them if I'm in a hurry and I want to dry them out. So just a little tip, and that's how I made the leeks that went into our dish. So, shall we take a look and see how our dish is doing? Let me just clean up my work area here, especially if there's that dirt from the leeks here. Let's see how we did. All right. Get my little oven mitts here. Oh, looks beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, I love it. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, I love it. All right. So we now have our finished dish. Now, you may want to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. If the sauce is a little acidic, maybe feels a little bit flat, the flavor, just a little bit of salt will help with that. So when you're tasting it, make sure you have that in mind. But let me just plate this up. And we can see how we did. Now, I want to add in my rice first. I always like to put things on top of things. Like if you like to keep things separate, you can keep your rice on the side. But I like to layer things. So here we have our cauli rice. Can you see that? Beautiful. I mean, it looks just like rice. And I'm going to be very careful here to spoon out some of my sauce, my ragu, right? It's not that ragu that we were used to growing up, right? The yellow kind of smooth, very sweet sauce, because they did add sugars to that. I'm going to just top. This is a rather large piece of fish, but oh my goodness, look how pretty that is. What do you think? Oh my goodness. Now, it's going to be a little bit hot, but I'm just going to taste a little bit. And that will tell me if I need to add a little bit more salt and pepper to it. But I'm thinking it's going to look good. It's hot, but very tasty. And you can see my cod is just flaking off. It's actually jumping, the rice is jumping onto my counter. But you can see here how wonderfully flaky that is. And cooked perfectly. So it was in for probably about 13 minutes, but very good. Oh my goodness. Wonderful. So, I probably am going to add in a little bit of salt, maybe sprinkle a little bit of salt over the fish. I could have done that before cooking. Sometimes I worry that it draws the liquids out of the fish too much, so I will do it afterwards. So my preference would be just to add a little bit of salt sprinkled over the cod, just like so, and maybe with a twist of cracked pepper. There we go. You can throw on a little bit of parsley for presentation.